Hey, what's up? It's Jason Cercone for Breaking Brews, and here we are. It is time to launch Season 2 of the Breaking Brews Podcast. Now, if you haven't done so already, you can check out the first 30 episodes right here on the Breaking Brews YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to the podcast and listen in true podcast form on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play Music, on Stitcher, on Spotify, and now on iHeartRadio. You can also check out the Breaking Brews podcast as well as all the show notes for each episode over at breakingbrews.com/podcast. So after a 3-month hiatus, 2-month-ish hiatus at this point, we're ready to rock and roll with Season 2 of the Breaking Brews podcast. Today, we're going to introduce the show, or I'm going to introduce the show to you with a brief clip from the season premiere of the Breaking Brews podcast. This episode, I was extremely excited to record, and I couldn't have had a better guest on the show with me. Keana McMahon from 11th Hour Brewing came on to discuss one of the more polarizing topics in craft beer these days, at least polarizing in my opinion, and that is Untappd. I have been very anti-Untappd for a few years, and I want to specify, and I know this will get said on the show, it's not so much the platform, it's the culture that it's inadvertently reared. And I feel like Untappd takes a lot of the social aspects away from the world of beer, and the social element is really what makes craft beer so great. So Keana and I talked a lot about what Untappd has done to the craft beer industry. Also dove into a little bit about the Untappd for business aspects that many breweries and bars are a part of, and Keana had a lot to add on that. So, you know what? Without further ado, let's listen to a brief clip. This is from Session 31, the season premiere of Season 2, the Breaking Brews podcast. Take a listen. And I think inadvertently, this culture that's been spawned from the Untappd application was probably nothing they were thinking about. I mean, at least I would have to believe when they were creating this application and this overall platform for beer drinkers, it wasn't to the point where it was going to become such a negative.
I think they were IT guys. They weren't even like craft beer. I mean, maybe they were, but from their bios, what I read was these are two guys that wanted a way to make money with an app. Yeah. It wasn't about, and I think that's where the disconnect is if they don't truly understand the industry or who they're selling their product to and what they're doing to businesses, they're just looking at the check. They're just looking at the monetary gain.
Right.
You know, they did this to make money. Like, who wouldn't want to make an app and retire? I
sure.
mean, if we all could, we would. It would be great.
Absolutely. And I mean, every business goes in, gets their operation started with that mindset of making money and having, building succession plans and legacies and things of that nature. But you need to look at it in a practical manner to where what you're putting out there is going to get you from point A to point B in a positive way.
Yeah.
And again, not that everything that's come from what they've created is negative, but let's look at it from the wide lens. What are your overall thoughts about how Untappd is impacting the beer industry today?
I think that it is, like I just said, the pros are it's getting people together from all over the world, all over the country. The impact is on the owners more than the people checking in, or I think the Untappd business itself. We actually, we stopped serving tasters because I would think owners would. I don't look at Untappd. I refuse to. I don't have time for it. My husband does. I think their sales guy does. One of the brewers does. But it goes back to, we kind of looked at it, and what's happened is you don't get the true taste of a beer in 3.75 ounce taster.
Right.
So we pulled them off the menu. The same beer. Let's take Cult Logic, for example. I don't know if this was the one, it's just an example. Cult Logic 16 ounce pour averaged 4 stars. In a taster, it averaged 0.25 stars less. Why? Because people aren't getting the true taste.
Right.
So we pulled tasters. We don't do flights, so people that want flights and tasters can thank Untappd for this. And now we only do 8 ounce pours and 16 ounce pours.
Okay.
So that was one of the things we changed, a year and a half in after looking at how Untappd, the ratings are affecting just the different size of glasses affects people's perception of what the taste is. Because to get a true taste of a beer, you have to drink at least 8 ounces from beginning to end. And that's what just irritates the shit out of me when people take a sip and check it in. And you didn't taste anything. You could have had coffee right before this or a piece of gum. And are you a smoker? Because if you're a smoker, I don't want you checking in my beers.
You're right.
So I think there's things like that Untappd can do. Like, hey, if you smoke, it needs to be like, it's just something.
Well, let's get this out there right away, because this is what I can't understand, because you just ran off a list of things that can affect how a person enjoys a beer and ultimately scores that beer. Why do we have to have this overall brewery rating system tied to the number of or the quality of check-ins, I guess I should say? Because to me, again, with taste being so subjective and so many different factors playing into it, and again, a person at a festival taking a 2-ounce sip and then saying it sucks 1 star, and then your overall brewery rating comes out. Why do those two... Like, that's where I can't put this together.
I don't
even know why that has to exist.
I mean, I've gone back and forth. Untappd, our subscription was up this past August, and they called me to renew it. And I sent them a lengthy email of the reasons I did not want to renew it. And that if they didn't take the steps over the next year to change some of these things, we were not going to renew it. What people don't understand also is that brewery rating you're talking about. Somebody like marketing firms that make me like a Breweries in PA, when they do their Final Four, they bring those Final Four in based on a brewery rating. So I mean, it affects what kind of maybe contests we're put into or a hierarchy that's out there for a festival. That's taken into account, for those things, and people don't understand that. And I don't think Untappd understands that. I did reiterate to them, like, a lot of craft beer marketing organizations take into account these ratings, and it's just not fair.
Right.
Is it fair that, I don't know. It's you have a 3.5 barrel brewery and a 20 barrel brewery. Is it fair to the 3.5 barrel brewery? They might have only put 10 beers out this year that are amazing. Right. And maybe they haven't had as many people in a place that has a bigger tap room, or it's not, it just doesn't work. Well, to me, to experience what a brewery is all about, it's not just about the beer. It's about the experience that you have when you visit. So whether you're a brewery that's also serving food, or whether you have a food truck, or I could come in and sit down at your bar and I could have a great conversation with the bartender. That's going to impact my overall impression. Yeah, and
of your
you might have
brewery.
had an okay beer, but you're going to give a better rating because you had a great time talking to that bartender and getting educated on beer, or maybe you had a great time with your friends.
Yeah. So shouldn't in that vein, shouldn't there be 2 separate scores? There should be the overall brewery ranking. I could come in and I could go on Untappd and I could just rank your brewery. 5-star experience at 11th Hour Brewing.
Absolutely.
My beers, I rank them as 4 or 4.25, whatever the scoring system is. The 2 should not be tied together because, in my opinion, they're completely separate entities.
It's fucking nuts that this is the only product we have. We don't have a hamburger at Untappd. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's not one for hamburgers or just for wine, or
there is one for wine.
Is there?
Because I had asked that. I can't remember. This was a while back because I asked them, like, why doesn't wine experience what beer? And then someone said, no, there's a check-in.
I mean, why aren't people walking around rating empanadas? Like, it's just, why do we get the brunt of it? But I mean, that goes back to it's what they've created.
All right, so there you have it. Just a brief taste of what's coming your way in the season premiere of season 2 of the Breaking Brews podcast with Keana McMahon, covering the Untappd phenomenon, epidemic. I don't know. You define it however you want, but there's a lot to uncover and a lot to unpack. And Keana and I had over an hour's worth of conversation on the subject, and it's all going to be coming your way when season 2 premieres. Which leads me into what's happening with the season 2 premiere of Breaking Brews podcast. Good question, says me. Here's the answer, says I. Monday, November 25th is the day you're going to want to lock down on your calendar. That is the season premiere day of the Breaking Brews podcast. And for this season, I'm doing it totally different. Instead of just one episode coming your way, or as we did at the beginning of season 1, 5 episodes over the course of 5 days, you're getting it all at once. Season 2 of the Breaking Brews podcast, All 15 episodes are coming your way Monday, November 25th, just in time for all of the Thanksgiving traveling that you're probably going to be doing. If you're going to be in the car, if you're going to be in a plane and you need something new to listen to, you will have 15 new episodes of the Breaking Brews podcast to binge and enjoy the hell out of. Now, I can hear you on the other end of the camera. You're welcome, and I love you too. But I do feel the need to continue seeing other people. Season 2 is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of great subjects that were covered, all of them coming to you in binge-worthy format. Like I said, all 15 available at once. Over the course of the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be dropping clips right here on the Breaking Brews YouTube channel to give you sneak previews of some of the episodes. So today you got a little taste of the season premiere. Next week, there'll be another clip coming your way. So you're going to be ready to roll for Monday, November 25th with a nice preview coming your way over the course of the next few weeks. So again, Monday, November 25th, Season 2 of the Breaking Brews podcast. All 15 episodes will be dropping wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, breakingbrews.com/podcast, and right here on YouTube. Plenty of cool stuff coming your way, guys. Hope you're as excited as I am because we've got some great content in Season 2 ready for you to consume. That's it for today. Tune in next week right here on YouTube for another sneak preview of Season 2 of the Breaking Brews podcast. I am Jason Cercone. We're out.